Hello, everyone. This is Dan Campbell. We're doing another live podcast, this time with one of my longtime and one of my favorite clients, Richard Weston. He's been with dreamGEAR, which is a major consumer electronics and audio company located in the LA area. So I've known Richard for many, many years. In fact, he was introduced by one of his neighbors who, an airline pilot. So that client is no longer a client, but Richard is hanging in there. So nice to see you, Richard.
Nice to see you, Dan. I had forgotten about who had introduced us or where it came from. It's been so
Yeah.
long. Yeah.
Don't know if you're still in that neighborhood, and if he's still your neighbor, but
I don't recall who that was, but my neighbor is not an airline pilot. So
okay. At least that's my memory. So maybe it was
no,
maybe it was faulty.
you're probably very right.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Well, let's just start with the interview and the discussion. So, can you kind of describe your professional and business background and how you got started in this
Wow.
business? I know you're a lawyer like I am, but you're one of the lucky ones who got out of the business. So,
I'm a lawyer by education, but never really practiced law. Right after law school, I went off to work in the political world and went to Washington, D.C. at various times, worked for a senator, worked for a congressman, worked on presidential campaigns, back to New York City, worked for the mayor of New York, and finally drifted into the real world and left the political world. To make a long story short, I came out to California to join Paramount Pictures. I created a licensing division for them, which never existed at any of the studios. That was the days of Star Trek as a television series, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, Taxi, and a lot of these classic television series that we began licensing for consumer products, if you would, and all such uses. Wound up being president of television production at Paramount, left Paramount and joined with a gentleman who had a literary agency, which is a euphemism on the West Coast for an agency that doesn't represent actors. So representing writers, producers, and directors. Some years later, sold my interest in that, looked around to buy a business, met one of my current partners through our wives, and 20 years ago, two of us went to China, found some products to bring in, and that's how we began our current business, dreamGEAR.
Wow, that's great. Taxi was one of my favorite shows from all times, and for many years when I was in law school and after I was so busy, I didn't have time to watch TV, but I always found time to watch reruns of Taxi. So
it was a brilliant show.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Introduced a lot of great actors and
great characters.
Yeah. Andy Kaufman when he first came on Saturday Night Live, people couldn't get him, but I got him right away, and I thought
he was a very strange character, and he had an alter ego.
Right, the wrestler, right?
The name escapes me for the time being, but to tell you how strange it was when he would show up at the gate of Paramount with his alter ego, I left words for the guards not to let him on the lot because he behaved like this alter ego.
Yeah, he was that obnoxious agent or something, right?
Yeah, wouldn't cooperate with anybody, wouldn't do his lines. And I said, if he shows up as Andy Kaufman, let him on the lot. He really had a split personality, so very unusual.
Yeah. He was fantastic. Loved him.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, 20 years. So I think I've been representing you maybe about that long or almost that long.
Close to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that time, dreamGEAR has grown a lot. You have a big facility in Torrance, California.
Yes.
It was actually just north up the street from where my old pharma company first started out, in a building in a strip mall, actually.
Wow. Yeah.
So a long time ago. Let's shift to a little more specific on the industry you're in, because that's a very interesting industry. Can you tell us how the consumer electronic business works?
Well,
gaming?
we're in a consumer electronics is really a very broad description of what we do. We're in
Right.
a segment of that industry that really relates more to the video game industry with a crossover to the toy industry. So, I mean,
Right.
consumer electronics could be everything from the refrigerator in your house and then down to an electronic toy. So we're really, again, our goods are all either the video game industry or the toy industry, which crosses over with that. I'm sure, as you probably know, and most people know, the video game industry has exploded, over the last 20 or 30 years. It really skyrocketed during the COVID outbreak when people were at home and had nothing else to do, had a lot of free time on their hands. But it's been a great growth trajectory, for us, and it's helped propel our business.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's interesting. COVID changed a lot of things. I mean, I remember I got a lot of home construction projects done during that period. I did some art, and it was kind of an interesting period. Glad it's over, but
Hopefully,
so yeah, I think it's over. I hope.
yeah.
Your company also has a sound division, which
Well, we
I sound right.
we do. We had a license from Apple for a number of years, and we were bringing
Hmm.
in accessories for mobile devices for your phone, which included a lot of audio products. Now the audio section is really limited to video gaming. The accessories for your mobile phones have really become a commodity. There's just been this influx of Chinese brands
Hmm.
that have really, to a large degree, eliminated the nature of the market from our perspective, having a brand. So we still do audio products, but it's mostly for video gaming now.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, great. Well, that kind of segues right into the question about China. So I know a lot of your products are still coming out of China, and with all the changes going on, relationship between the U.S. and China, how is that affecting, if at all, how you're
Well,
doing business in
yeah,
China?
I mean, it hasn't really affected our business.
Mhm.
COVID had a greater effect on our business with China than any political situation. But the problem with concentrating all your manufacturing in China, which a lot of people in our industry do, and a lot of the big players like Microsoft and Apple and et cetera, the
Mhm.
problem is the uncertainty of the future. You have Trump threatening all sorts of retaliatory trade measures against those countries, imposing import duties on our goods. So it's uncertainty. And the call to start building a industry here in the States is a little naive in the sense that it's not one industry. You have a supply chain in China that oftentimes can involve 5, 10, 15 different factories supplying parts
Right,
and finished goods.
right,
It's
right.
not just moving your factory to the States, it's that entire supply chain. So it hasn't directly yet affected us, but we, of course, worry about the future and the political situation being so concentrated on manufacturing in China.
Yeah, I remember reading how when Apple decided they wanted to, onshore more manufacturing of computers, they wanted to build the higher end desktops, the Apple desktop computers. They had a real problem because even things like getting nuts and bolts
Yeah,
were difficult because they were all, had transferred over to Asia. So they had a real hard time finding just things like nuts and bolts and having people who had the skills how to assemble circuit boards and all those things. So it was
yeah.
really a challenge.
There has been an influx of factories, Chinese factories, opening up in Mexico, in the north of
Right, right.
Mexico, Monterrey, to take advantage of NAFTA. But again, the number of suppliers we have for the final product, you'd have to have an awful lot of factories moving there.
Right, right. No, that's and I think what's happening right now, I've been reading, is that Chinese electric car companies have figured out that the backdoor way in to avoid the tariffs and to also get the $7,500 electric car credit is to manufacture in China. So we'll see if the government kind of stops that or if that continues. But that's kind of a backdoor way into the U.S. market from Mexico, which is North America.
Yeah.
I'm a patent attorney, an IP attorney,
I hope so, Dan, after all these years.
Still doing it after all these years. What kind of role has IP played in your company's success or growth over
Well,
the
IP,
years?
IP is critically important to us to protect our brands. It protects the names we give our products, on top of which, of course, we do a lot of licensing from very, very well-known IP publishers of video games. So the
Right.
fact that they protect their IP when they license to us, we can be assured that people out there who are unauthorized are not competing with us for using these licensed products. IP plays a critical role in the growth of our business and really the protection of our business.
Can you describe a little bit more your decision-making process when it comes to like deciding whether you're going to get IP and where you do it?
Well, yeah, where we do it is where we have our major customers. And
Mhm.
although we don't have a customer in China, we oftentimes register in China so as to protect somebody else manufacturing in China and exporting under our brand names. Obviously, the US, we use registrations in Canada and Mexico. Those are big markets for us. And then in the EU, we have the Madrid Protocol, which with one registration can cover the entire EU.
Right, right.
So unless we have substantial sales in a market, we tend not to worry about that market other than China for the reason I explained. So IP is really important to us. It's important in the creation of our products, some of which we can get a utility patent, which means nobody can copy the purpose of that product. Sometimes we just get a design patent, which is satisfactory to us because it means that no one can copy the design. The design takes on secondary meaning in the marketplace. People buy it because of the design, and they see somebody else come in with a knockoff. They can't copy our design. So there are all sorts of ramifications of, protecting our IP.
Yeah, yeah. No, we've worked together. I think fairly successfully, almost on an automated manner, going after people who've in the past have tried different iterations of iSound. Some of
Yeah,
them
precisely. Yeah,
been pretty ridiculously close. So usually
yeah,
they don't even bother replying to the
yeah,
notice of cancellations or the
yeah.
opposition motions in the
No, you've been
trademark.
quite successful on our behalf when we identify somebody using a mark that is identical or similar to our own marks and getting them to cease and desist. So that's
Yeah,
very good.
yeah, no, and in fact, one reason for that is that when you have a trademark, it's a source identifier and it carries goodwill. So if somebody is making a product that's not to your standards, it can really damage your brand if people
Yeah,
think,
we get blamed. We get blamed for it. Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
people. I think that's how you find out a lot of times, right? Like somebody thinks like, hey, I bought this and it's
Exactly.
malfunctioned.
Exactly. And then we look at the product and we realize it's not ours and it has a name similar to, not identical necessarily. So yeah, it could very much hurt our business and hurt our name.
Yeah, well,
No
very
good
good.
hope.
Yes, continue on that. So, going back to China, I have found recently that I'm having a harder time getting trademarks and patents through in China. And it's not just with dreamGEAR, it's with many different clients. So, I've been talking to different attorneys in China, different associates, and they're not admitting that. But I still think there's been a change in the last 2 or 3 years. Have you noticed any differences in your dealings?
I can't say I've noticed a marked difference, but it's always been a problem in China with people knocking off your,
Yeah,
trademarked items, your IP. That's a constant problem. And
yeah,
all we can do is try and not only identify it at the source, but try and stop it from coming into the country, which is, one can do.
right, right. Yeah. Do you, I know you register some of your trademarks with the Custom and Border Protection. Do you want to
Yes.
discuss that, how that's worked out for you?
Well, it's we're principally concerned with our major trademarks. Um, we want U.S. Customs, to work for us, in stopping unauthorized goods from coming into the country. Frequently, a customer of ours will ask for an authorization letter to show their local customs out of the country that they are authorized from us to bring in our goods. So we write that frequently for customers. They experience the same issues, with their customs.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I've been on both sides of it, representing clients who are accused of incorrectly or wrongfully using someone else's trademark. And I'll tell you, if you're on the wrong side of them, you have a very, very hard time getting customs to allow those goods to be
Released.
they're seized and destroyed. And unless
Yeah.
you can get that consent letter, pretty much you're out of luck. So,
Yeah, we find this very common in Europe in particular. For instance, I license video game publishers, most famous of which are the likes of Pac-Man. So I go to the licensor, the holder of the Pac-Man IP. I ask them for a letter that I can send my customers saying to my customer that we're authorized by the holder of Pac-Man to sell these goods to the customer in Europe. They need that letter to present to their customs officials. That's very common in Europe.
great. Reflecting on your journey, Richard, what are some of the most challenging lessons you learned, and how have these lessons shaped your approach to business?
Wow, there's so many. It's hard to know where to begin. I think pick the people with whom you work carefully, because as I'm fond of saying to my staff, you spend more time at work than doing anything else in life. You spend more time at work than with your family, than sleeping or anything else. So, don't let the buck rule your decisions as to who you're in business with. So that would be probably one of the most important lessons. Too often, we are blinded by the attraction of riches, and we don't ask those hard questions. But in the long run, I think it'll serve you very well. And, pick something you enjoy, again, for the same reason. If you're not happy with what you're doing, it's a miserable life.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I always tell people, they ask about NDAs or confidential disclosure agreements, non-disclosure agreements. And I always tell them, well, you can write anything you want, but if the person who's signing it doesn't respect it, it doesn't make any difference. You just have a right to sue.
Right.
So you just have to, pick your partner very carefully.
Yes.
Otherwise you could really end up, spending your time fighting people, which is not really a good way to get ahead.
No, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree.
Any other good lessons? You said you had a lot of them.
Yeah, I keep repeating this. One of my favorite ones is I tell my staff, I've yet to hear of anybody on their deathbed who says, "I wish I spent more time at the office." You have a family, you get vacation time, use it, go enjoy, spend time with your family. It's really important. It's not time you can make up.
I agree. Balance is important.
Yeah.
You need to make enough money, but you definitely have to recharge your batteries, I find.
Sure.
It's like I love foreign travel. I find that
I do too. Yeah, likewise.
Recuperates me from that. And also I love learning foreign languages. So Richard, do you think that companies are over reliant on IP? And I will tell you, I think some are, and some don't use it to the maximum benefit, but I think some may be depending on it too much. What are your feelings on that?
Can you be a little more expansive when you say depending on it? In what regard?
Yeah, thinking that it can do something that maybe it's not going to be able to do. Over reliance on it, thinking I have a patent, so I'm covered, or I've got trademarks, so I'm covered.
As you know better than I, a trademark just allows you to enter into litigation. It doesn't mean that your product is going to survive. It doesn't mean the cost is going to be justified. There's a lot more to business in protecting and marketing your goods than IP. That's not it's not a guarantee of a successful product launch or a product sale. It's very common for people to take something that's protected by IP and figure out a way around it. I can do the same thing. It's just going to look different, or it's going to function differently, but I'm going to get to the same place you get. So
Yeah.
Don't presume this is a guarantee of no competition.
Right. Right. Yeah. I remember years ago, I was in Glendale at the time, and at that time also the company Nestle had a headquarters in Glendale, and I was pitching them, to do more IP and do it with my firm, and they declined. And what they told me was like, we don't need more IP. What we focus on is being the lowest cost provider and having shelf space. So having that was enough for them, and I think they made the right choice
Yeah,
because they could just outproduce anybody and get the shelf space, and people wanted to sell their products. So
sure, sure.
you have to spend a lot of money on IP.
Yeah. Now, at the end of the day, quality is going to stand you in good stead.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you about the future. So things are evolving very rapidly. I know we had this discussion offline about AI and how you haven't really seen that much impact yet. I think we're really early in the game for AI, but I'm already seeing things, and anecdotally talking to people, it seems like a lot is already going on. And I think we're at the bottom of the first inning. So
Oh,
what's your feeling
yeah.
on AI and how it might affect your business?
Well, we do or use a lot of software, video game software, a lot of programming for the electronics. AI, we've already written software using AI. So that's really an easy one, an easy way to see AI quite rapidly being used in our industry. That, to me, is where the greatest potential is, for our use. Frequently, what we'll do is we'll get software from a publisher, and we specialize in retro gaming, retros like Pac-Man, older games. So oftentimes a publisher will give us the original software and then tell us, you have to make changes in the software. There's a Coca-Cola sign in there. We no longer have the relationship with Coca-Cola. You got to get rid of it. There's music in there. We don't know where we got the rights from. We don't know who owns the rights to the music. You got to substitute new music.
Mhm.
So AI makes it quite easy for us, or easier,
Uh-huh.
to make these changes rapidly and more cost effectively.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I too believe that AI is gonna kind of leveraging our time. I know a lot of in software guys are using it to
Yeah,
increase their productivity. I have a daughter who's an artist. She uses AI to write a lot of advertising copy for her now, and she
yeah,
also uses it actually to help create her digital art. And
yeah.
she'll do something, and then she uses the AI tools to increase her productivity. So she's
Yeah,
already finding she
you
can
gotta,
produce
yeah,
more.
you gotta be careful as a lawyer because I know I wind up using AI to draft basic agreements. You know,
Yeah.
give me an agreement with a sales representative doing the following under the following terms, and it's magic. It's scary how these things get turned out so quickly.
It is. Somebody mentioned that AI is the best bullshit machine ever, and I kind of agree. The infamous or famous, however you want to say, lawyer Michael Cohen of Donald Trump Association was recently caught citing law that didn't exist, and apparently he used
Yeah,
AI, or his lawyers used AI to do legal research. So there's
yeah.
one aspect of AI; it will actually create false set of facts or
I read about that. You
truths.
got to be real careful. Yeah,
Yeah, I use AI when I like write patent applications just to see like what ideas are out there. And I
yeah,
have found I've actually had this experience where it'll say something and I ask AI, it's not a real person, it's this, this cloud. I'll ask it for the references and then it'll say, oh, I'm sorry, there are no references for that. So it really makes up stuff. That's a major problem in AI.
yeah.
But
Good
I think it's a
question.
tool. If you know what you're doing, it can
Yeah,
help you, but it is also can lead you astray if you're blind.
yeah. I think the most common use we put it to, quite frankly, is drafting press releases. It's real easy to talk into your phone and say, draft a press release announcing such and so date that
Yeah.
does such and such. Boom.
Right. Do you see that AI might actually have some negative impacts on your business or the market for your business?
Well, it could very easily, flood the market with software that pretends to be licensed software that's close to, but not actually the real software, and flood the internet with that. So I could see that happening very easily.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of promise and a lot of challenge with AI, but it's something that I use like almost every day, and it's just fascinating. I've read several books on the topic by experts, people who actually invented some of these large language models. So
Yeah,
very
the
interesting.
potential is enormous. I just think,
Yeah,
as you said, we're in the first inning here.
yeah,
We really don't fully understand all its potential.
yeah.
It's going to come quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And it's almost like our children or grandchildren. I don't know what
Well,
they'll be doing. It's going to be a different world.
look at I don't know if you read the other day about the stock NVIDIA.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, crazy
It's
valuation.
it's worth more than I think all of the Chinese stock market now, which has gone down, which is insane. It reminds me, I don't know if you remember, Richard, but I was living in Japan for a while, for a year. Japan was in the ascension in the late 70s and early 80s. And at one point, the imperial garden or the imperial
Palace.
land in Tokyo was worth more than the state of California. So you kind of go like, wow, that was crazy. And just last week, the Japanese stock market got back to the same level it had reached in 1986. So
Wow.
took a little while to get back there. So I just wondering like maybe Nvidia maybe is not worth more than the entire Chinese stock market, but it's certainly having a great
It's
run.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all because of AI, the promise of AI.
Yeah, the promise is there. Yeah, sell the sizzle, not the steak. You had mentioned you're selling a lot of retro games. I think you recently asked me about Tetris, and there's some
Yes.
young
Yes.
man who did something pretty incredible.
Yeah. We have a license from Tetris that we acquired this past year. And there is the classic Tetris World Championship that was held several months ago in Seattle. And a young boy, 13 years old, his score was so high it went off the charts. Tetris literally could not keep up with his score. And we had been in contact with him. And luckily, he was photographed holding one of our products. And we're still in contact with him. And I may come to you about this, that we'd like to enter into some sort of agreement with him to use him for various marketing purposes.
Yeah, it's incredible. Just a young kid being able
Yeah.
to beat the game. It's
13 years old. Yeah.
yeah. He's got some great days ahead of him for sure.
We wanted to take him to the recent CES, Consumer Electronics Show. And his mother said, "Gee, I'm so sorry. He has too much homework. I can't let him go."
He was probably pissed off about that.
I'm sure he was. There's another championship coming up in June, Pasadena. So we'll all be there, and hopefully we'll have some sort of relationship with them formalized.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we're almost at the end of our time, but I'd like to ask you, if you have any closing words and advice for new business people, entrepreneurs, people who are already in business but want to grow their business. Maybe if you could give us like 5 pointers, from your many years of business.
Well, don't undervalue your name, the importance of your name. Pay attention to it, protect it, both in the way you run your business, but also from an IP standpoint. You spend a lot of time marketing yourself, your brand, whether you're a dry cleaners or you're in the retro gaming business. People remember you by your name. So protect it. And not only from an IP standpoint, but from a behavior standpoint, how you conduct yourself in business.
Right.
And with your customers. Treat your personal customers, not your business customers. Treat all, but particularly your personal customers, the individual who buys your product in a store. We have a policy of being very liberal with replacements, returns. If someone contacts us and says, "I bought one of our goods in Target," we're not going to tell them to go back to Target. You got a problem with it, send us, we'll replace it for no cost. It's a nominal cost for us, but it's important from a standpoint of, for instance, social media. In this current environment of social media, a bad comment can spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
you really have to be very careful of protecting your name, your image, not just legally, but how you treat your customers.
Yeah. My dad used to say, a man, all a man really has is his reputation. And I think it
Oh,
was
yeah.
very true. My dad was a wise person, a
No,
wise guy too.
I echo that. I've said that many times. Anybody who sullies my name, I'm going to confront them and deal with them because that's my most important asset.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
pass on to my children, quite frankly.
Yeah. Very good.
So,
Very good. Any other pointers besides that?
no, I'm not full of pearls of wisdom here.
Floss your teeth.
Yeah, twice daily.
Okay. Well, Richard, well, thank you so much. It was
Pleasure,
great to
Dan.
see you again. It's been a while. But the miracle of technology on Zoom, we
Yeah,
can see each other and chat and share this with hopefully other people who are interested
Well,
in
it's nice and
learning.
it's comforting to know you're always on the other end of that email or phone call.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, personal relationships are very important in everything, I think. So
Sure.